Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview podcast. Sunderland's winning streak came to an end at the weekend as we somehow lost 1-0 to Cardiff City, despite long periods of dominance. However, this Friday we do have a chance to put that right as we visit bottom of the league Sheffield Wednesday, who are having a little bit of a struggle on their return to the Championship. And to update us on kind of what's gone wrong on the blue side of Sheffield is a returning guest, but a man we haven't spoke to in actually over a year, James from the Wednesday Til I Die podcast. James, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I've been better, Graham, to be perfectly honest. In myself, I'm fine. But no, the football has been nothing short of horrendous so far this season, both on and off the pitch as well.
But you're all right in yourself. You're feeling healthy and well.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling brilliant. It's just that, there's a game on Friday, and I kind of already know what the outcome is going to be before I've even gone, to be honest.
We've all been there, I think, but we'll get straight to it. There's lots to talk about, to be honest, it makes it interesting for me, but not so much great for you. But 8 games, 6 defeats, 2 draws, no wins has not been a positive start to your return to the second tier. How has it been being a Sheffield Wednesday fan in the opening, however many weeks we've had of the season, 6 weeks or so?
It's mental. I'm sure most of your listeners probably saw the playoffs, certainly probably the Peterborough game. If not watched it live, they probably saw the highlights. And, the 4-0 defeat in the first leg was horrendous. Obviously, the 4-0 win in the 90 minutes back at our place was probably one of the best games that I've ever witnessed. And then to go, obviously, we're going to Wembley, we're winning dramatic fashion there. And then I think we're something like it's 110, 120 days since that playoff final win. And to be where we are now, it's quite impressive, really, to have thrown it all away in such dramatic fashion. Everyone was absolutely buzzing after Wembley, myself included, thinking that we've perhaps turned a corner. We've had whole points deductions, having to go down to League One. Right, it took us 2 seasons to get out there, but maybe we're, on that upturn. The form might have changed. Things can look positive. To be honest, I was looking forward, Graham, to just a boring season because I didn't think the squad was quite, good enough to do what you boys have done and kind of challenge for the playoffs. I just thought they wouldn't be bad enough to go down, but, it wouldn't be good enough to be challenging. We'd just be, mid-table, and it'd be a nice, steady season because we've had a lot of, the past 2 seasons, obviously expecting to win every game. The season before with the points deduction, everything else that's come with it. I was just happy just to be just a normal team. But, the season started. Obviously, we've got a new manager in Xisco Munoz, who, it took 15 days to appoint him. Personally, I think he was a cheap option. I don't really know who else we were talking to. Obviously, names were banded around. Before we kicked a ball, things were looking quite positive. But then pre-season were a bit of a shambles. If you look, we've won 1 game, including pre-season, which was Chesterfield away. Now, Chesterfield are in the National League. Like, it's nothing really to brag about, is it? I know pre-season doesn't mean everything, but the alarm bells are ringing then. It's continued into the season. We haven't got a clue. I don't know what the playing style is. The formation's changed seemingly every week. I mean, to be honest, the last game against Swansea, we played Swansea and Middlesbrough last 2. We lost 3-0 against Swansea, and it was probably up there with one of the worst performances that I've ever witnessed. So, yeah, we're in dire straits at the moment. The chairman's not got a clue. The manager's not got a clue. And we're just kind of in free fall at the moment.
Funny you mentioned the kind of boring season. I think that's what Sunderland fans wanted in a way. And then we did kind of a non-boring season, but in a positive way. But you're right in what you say. I think I did watch all the playoff games, and I was like, the first leg I watched and I went, oh God, Sheff Wed or Sunderland, they're going to be stuck there for ages. I did not expect you to do what you did. And I think we remember the momentum that is still going from our playoff game, obviously, which you'll be well aware of. And that carried us so far. And you think the way that you won it in such dramatic fashion in both like the final and the semi, you think that momentum's going to really push you. But there was one big thing that happened that I do want to get onto the new manager because, well, your forums don't seem to like him very much. But someone who I've always really liked, and again, you probably a kick in the bollocks for you last night, seeing him get a last minute equaliser as new manager of Huddersfield. But Darren Moore seems to be the nicest man on the planet. And he's not there anymore. So, I think unless you live on the moon, you can't fail to have noticed the moon even, sorry. You can't fail to have noticed that his sacking / departure it wasn't exactly amicable. Before we get on to the new man, for the people who don't really know, can you give us the intricate details of, the lowdown essentially, and what happened with Darren Murray's sacking, and what your thoughts were on it?
Yeah, so obviously we win against Barnsley in the last minute. Obviously the season's ended quite late because of the playoffs. I think they go on Darren Moore and the players are off on 2-week holidays. They probably would normally do, perhaps a little bit later than what they're expecting. Everything's looking normal. One thing I would say is Sheffield Wednesday are very quiet in terms of contract lengths, not only managers but players and things like that. We never really know what sort of contracts that people are on. It's led to believe that it was on a rolling contract from when he first came in. Obviously, came in two and a half seasons prior to when he left. Basically, what's happened is he's come back. There's lots of different stories, and even though there's been various, versions of the story from either side, it's still pretty difficult to find out what's the actual truth. But reading between the lines, Darren Moore said that there was a disagreement in terms of the where the club is going to be this season and where he thinks they're going to be. Chansiri came out in the fans forum and said that he's aiming for top 6. Now, I don't know if that's tongue in cheek or if that's taken out of context. Obviously, he's a guy from Thailand. His English, although he can speak English, isn't fantastic. I don't know if he actually meant that or not. Having with Darren Moore saying what he said, I think he probably felt that the squad wasn't good enough to meet that objective. Now, it's also come out that Darren Moore's asked for 1.2 million a year in terms of a salary, and he's asked to be the highest paid at the club, which has now come out in the wash. And Chansiri's thrown all the toys out of the pram and kind of said all these things. Now, there's an argument that people are saying, was Darren Moore worth that? And people are backing Chansiri, saying, well, he wasn't good enough last season and he shouldn't be paid that much money. But if you look at what the average championship salary is, it's around about that figure anyway. So maybe he was just asking for what he wanted. Also, I don't know about you, but if someone he's in a higher league, so that's seen as a promotion. If then your boss is asking you to do something that you think is unachievable, he knows what football's like. I'm going to ask for big money. If I get big money, fantastic. I'll probably get the sack because I know I'm not going to be able to do what he's asking of me, and then I get a nice healthy payout. Or if what happens, and he doesn't. They don't agree terms. His stock is high. He's got a promotion on his CV, and look, he's gone to Huddersfield, who you can argue, well, at the moment they are in a much better position than what we're in now. So he's come out of that quite rosy. But yeah, it's from my point of view, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I always thought there was times last season when people wanted a new manager, and I thought that is there better managers than Darren Moore? Absolutely. Is there worse managers? Well, there's far more worse managers than there is better at that current time. So it was, the right decision to stick with him. I thought, give him a season. If we'd have finished mid-table, I would have been more than happy for him to walk away and say, let's bring in a new manager and let's build on that. But as it happens now, with new season, new league, new manager, not enough time either, because let's not forget that was another 2 weeks after the end of the playoffs. So other teams have had 4-5 weeks to prepare for all this, and we're kind of on the back foot. 12 new signings, a different style of play. There's far too many variables, and then also not enough money to spend either to bring these players in. And it's just a bit of a recipe for disaster, really. And that's where we are right now at the moment.
I looked at the forums. I looked at the articles. I looked at everything I could about this Xisco fella, obviously ex-Watford manager, but aren't we all? As the new head coach, he appears to be the most unpopular man to ever step foot in Hillsborough. If you're looking online, it's not always an accurate way to look at things, but I mean, he's not done very well. What's gone wrong with him in 8 games? Is it all his fault, or is it a mixture of loads of things and him also not being good enough?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things, to be fair. I mean, he's come in, first and foremost, Chansiri wanted someone to play attacking football, and they brought Xisco in. Now, nobody's ever said that what style of football he plays. But having looked at what he does and what he did at Watford, it's very much on the counter attack, soak up the pressure and hit you on the break. That's not attacking football. So I think some of these certain fans that have just not kind of looked into what he's done previously and just gone on what the chairman's been asking for. So maybe that's not on him, but that, you know, maybe we've had like the wrong expectations of him. One big thing is Marvin Johnson, who we had for the past 2 seasons. Now, probably one of the most frustrating footballers that we've ever had in terms of on the day, over the 90 minutes, he's, you know, there's certain things that he does that you, like I said, that you get frustrated on, don't take a man on, things like that. But his numbers are brilliant in terms of the number of assists that he gets. He also chips in with a goal. So he's a player that you can't really leave out of your squad. Well, he's been ostracised out of the team. The 25-man squad, he's not part of it. He's not injured. There's nothing wrong with him. He's you know, plays on the left-hand side. And then we're now playing a player that he brought in Delgado, who's a right winger. We're playing him at left wing back, you know, square pegs and round holes, when we've got a perfectly all right, you know, left winger that can play in that position. Not only that, there's Reece James. Now, don't forget, Marvin Johnson and Reece James were brought in. Reece James was on loan last season, and then we've signed him on a permanent, and Marvin Johnson signed a new contract. They both came in before Xisco, those contracts were signed before Xisco became manager. So he's not actually brought those players in, and neither have got a look in at this season whatsoever. And like I said, when you're playing players out of position and you've got 2 perfectly okay players, well, not even on the bench, not even in the squad, and it's not like they didn't play last season either. It's not like we're asking to bring in a 17-year-old kid. They can more than do a job. So that's another thing that's not gone well. In the media is awful. I don't know if you've watched any of the like press conferences or any of the clips that he's done with the local radio, but they are awful. He's been rubbed. He bites, and he's just saying the wrong things time and time again. Laughing after the Swansea game. Now, it's probably a nervous laugh, but still, it's just things that you just don't do. Like, it just doesn't look great, even if it's nervous or not, or even if he's not meaning the things. Now, you know, English isn't his native language. He's Spanish. He can speak English, but there's times where things get lost in translation. Again, not only for him talking, but also him misinterpreting what's being asked in the questions. And you'll know yourself doing what you do. Like, if you're going to get a bite out of someone, you're going to keep doing it because it's great for the content. It's great for people listening, reading, and things like that. And he's just not helping himself with what he's saying. I think if you read more into it, you can probably get a general idea of what he's trying to say. But when things are going wrong, everything seems to go wrong. He's like calling the players out as well, which 8 games in, it's not a great look. And I just can't see where we're going from here, to be honest. Like, it's, so things need to change. I don't know if he's got the buy-in from the players as well. A few things that like rumours from things that have come out from the club, they're not buying into his kind of ethos and what he's trying to do, and the tactics look all wrong. Whatever we were trying in pre-season, all right, it didn't work, so we didn't win any game. We've gone back to 5-3-2. We played 5-3-2 for the whole of last season, and then we're now 8 games in, and we've switched back to something that we did under Darren Moore. So what's happening in pre-season? What's all this preparation and things has just been all for nothing. It's all been ripped up. And I mean, I think he's used the most players in a starting lineup in the whole of the league. I think we're on to 21 players, 21 different players in the starting lineup, 8 games in. That, again, you don't know what his best 11 is either. Like, I know it's hard in it because when things go wrong, you want changes, and then when you make all the changes, you want a bit of stability and players to play, week in, week out. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But yeah, like I said, someone needs to change quickly, and unfortunately, I think it could be the manager.
I looked at the Middlesbrough game, and I think, obviously, Middlesbrough won at the weekend, but they've not had a great start of the season. You had Borough, and then you came up against Swansea, who hadn't won a game all season. And while the stats are a bit closer, the scoreline is not. I mean, battered 3-0, that's a battering, however you look at it. I think both of them will build as a massive game, especially from Sheffield Wednesday's perspective, but also probably the other club's perspective as well. Is Friday his final chance at salvation, or is it already too far gone no matter what happens on Friday?
Last Saturday were his last chance, as far as I'm concerned, to be honest. Playing two teams that have not won a game all season, one at home, one away, that's your chance to get some points on the board. All right, I think Middlesbrough are in a false position. You could argue that Swansea are a little bit, but the stats say that they haven't won a game all season. Their confidence was going to be low. Yeah, I thought like against Middlesbrough the first half, I thought we were good. Paul Valentine, someone who's not, he made his league debut for us last week. He was fantastic down that right hand side. They had to change things up at half time, and then we just didn't deal with it, and we didn't really capitalise on the chances that we had in the first half. And 1-1. All right, I thought that was a must-win game, but it certainly was a must-not-lose game. But if we didn't win against Middlesbrough, we had to beat Swansea, and it's just it's difficult as well because you look Cardiff. It was 1-1. We concede a penalty in the last minute, and it's a ridiculous penalty to concede. There's nobody near him. It's a handball, and then they put the ball away. Same with against Swansea. The guy's got the better of him. He's pulled him back. Like, all right, there's arguments whether it's inside or outside the box, or whether he's dived theatrically or whatever it is, but he's pulled him back in the box. Like, what are we playing at here? Like, it's stupid mistakes, and you could argue when it's individual mistakes like that, that's not really on the manager. However, in said that, you've gone 1-0 down, and we just absolutely fell apart at the weekend. Like, I said before the game, whoever gets the first goal probably goes on to win. And then I would rephrase by saying, if Swansea get the first goal, they'll probably go on to win, because we've got no backbone. There's no style. Players are resorting to doing things themselves. There were a few times where players picking the ball up and just running with the ball. I know that's what you want. You want ball carriers, but there was nobody showing for it. They're just running aimlessly, and eventually they get tackled. And when that starts happening, that's not whatever the style of players and whatever the tactics are. That's not it. So you're going against the grain by doing that and trying to, Barry Bannon's a prime example who tries to do everything when things aren't going great. And like I said, invariably, it never really happens. When you're in League One, you probably get away with it. In the Championship, it's a lot better quality. And yeah, you look at the fixtures. We've got you boys on Friday. Huddersfield are coming up. That's going to be great. Huddersfield at home against Darren Moore. I can see how that one's going to go. And you look and you think, it's probably going to be Rotherham. That's end of October, where we're going to perhaps get some points. And yeah, I think we asked this question at the weekend on the pod and said, is this squad good enough for the Championship? And both myself and Liam were like, yes, it probably is, but not with this manager and these tactics that we've got at the moment.
I looked at your summer window, and I wouldn't say I pride myself in having a decent knowledge, but I like to think there's a few players that I know. But if I'm honest with you, outside of Reece James, I was a bit lost. And obviously Reece James, we know because he was at Sunderland and he's on loan at you last year, so he's not really a new signing. He's just someone that's came permanently. A lot of the other names, Bernard, obviously I recognise from Man United's academy, but many of them were kind of shots in the dark that I don't know much about. But it looks like a lot of them are in the starting 11. Have any of them made much impact? Have any of them improved the squad? Are any of them struggling because of the manager? Is there anything that you did that was decent in the window that maybe can turn out good?
Yeah, there's two players I want to pick out that we were crying out for pace. That's a thing that we were really, really lacking. We signed Anthony Masaba from Monaco and then Jerry Gassama. Masaba's 22, Gassama's only 19. We're crying out for pace and youth, and I think they tick those boxes. And looking from where they've come from, Paris Saint-Germain and Monaco, they're not poor sides. Some cracking players have come out of Monaco. Not saying that Masaba is going to be one of them, but it's better than coming from Gateshead or someone like that in the National League North or wherever they play. So those were two exciting players. Gassama's played about 12 minutes, and Masaba, he started against Swansea. He came off the bench for Windass against Middlesbrough, and I think in both games he looked quite bright and looked quite like he's got something about him. It's someone that he could help us, but the problem is we're putting all his hopes on two players that have not done it anywhere else in their career, young and playing in England for the first time. So it's a bit of a tall ask, I think, to try and see them as the saviours. I mean, another player that was fantastic and he's unfortunately got injured is Momo Diaby. He was playing that defensive midfield role. He looked fantastic, and he got injured against Preston in the second, third game of the season. That's a bit of a blow. Paul Valentine, you said you watched the Middlesbrough game. He was the one, like I mentioned before, on the right, getting forward from that right wing back position and really driving the ball and taking a man on. Something that we've not really done all season, to be fair. Then again, he played against Swansea and he very rarely got forward. He got booked for the penalty, for the shirt pull, and I think that kind of knocked him a little bit, to be fair. So he's had one good game, and then he follows that up with a poor game, and probably 0 to 0 in the space of 4 or 5 days. So yeah, I think you're right in what you said in your assessment at the start. Like, a lot of them are players that we've not really heard of, or if we have heard of them, it's not because they've been lighting it up. John Buckley is probably one that people would know from his time at Blackburn. He's on loan. He's probably the head and shoulders our best player at the moment. It's not quite been ticking for him, but it's always going to be difficult coming into a side that's no confidence and not winning any games, and you're there to try and be the creative player. But then again, you look up top, and Smith, Gregory, and Ashley Fletcher, said more about him. Again, it's difficult. You provide him, but you've got to have someone to put the ball in the back of the net. It's a real sorry state. I know I've kind of said that the squad's good enough, and then I've just kind of slated all the new signings, but I don't think any of them really better than what we've currently got. And some of the players that have been forced out, I think it's been really unfair. Will Vaulks and George Byers can't really get a look in. I don't think the players that have come in are that much better than what they offer.
It's interesting you mentioned about that, because I looked at the team, and I think there's ones that stick out that you recognise from League One days, like Barry Bannon and so on and so forth. And there is players that are within that team, but I noticed the likes like Liam Palmer, you mentioned George Byers there, weren't in the squad on at the weekend. Now, when Sunderland came up, don't get me wrong, we added bits of quality here and there. Diallo was an absolute revelation, but a lot of the reason we did really well was the likes of Danny Bart, the likes of Patrick Roberts, Jack Clark, all kind of up their game, but at the same time kind of grew with us out of League One. Sheffield United looked like Sheffield Wednesday. Oof, need to edit that. Crikey. Actually, I might leave that in. They look.
At least you didn't call this Sheffield, Graham. That's better.
Yes.
You can call it Sheffield United, but Sheffield would have been even worse, to be fair.
Yes, it would have been. But I think, in a sense, you look different. There's one or two players there, but the side does look different to the one I watched literally 120 days ago on Sky. Is that a big part of the reason Sheffield Wednesday haven't progressed or been competitive, if we're honest with each other? Because a lot of the team has changed, and it's not really the boys that came up, and the team ethic, the team morale's maybe been destabilised a little.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you come from 4 goals down and you're dead and buried and everyone's kind of written you off, and then again, when you're in the playoff final and you score in the 123rd minute and all that euphoria and the celebrations were fantastic after, and the fans and everything else, you've got to harness that and you've got to take that through. Look, you mentioned Sheffield United just a minute ago when they went up to the Prem, not this time, but the one before. You're not telling me that squad was better than the teams that they finished above. Obviously, they stayed in the league. Obviously, the season after they got relegated, but that was because of the team morale. They live and die for each other. They die for the badge and everything else. And sometimes that can kind of get you over that hurdle. I think we had that. We had that last season with the way that they won those games, and you'd almost feel like you're unbeatable in those instances. And then to totally rip that apart, we haven't got any of that now. It's just gone. Like, surely you would just continue, certainly for the first 10 or 15 games, continue what you were doing from last season, work on things in the background to try and improve. You bring a few additions in, and, all right, the gulf between the Championship and League One is probably, it probably underestimated. It is quite big, the gap. But equally so, there's also 6 or 7 really poor teams in this league as well. So you don't have to be that good just to survive in the league. And I feel like, yeah, Palmer's not playing, Byers is not playing. Smith and Gregory, it's only one of them that's playing. I mean, Smith scored 20 goals last season. I think it's a bit of a fluke, to be fair, if I'm being honest. But football, we've just been talking about it. It's all about on confidence. He will be going in this season as a confident striker, and we've got none. All that confidence has just gone, not only from the players, but the fans as well. Like, we're in a far worse position, than we've ever been. Do you know, people have said, it's going to be like this. We'd have preferred to stay in League One, I think, to be honest. I mean, all right, you wouldn't have had the winning against Peterborough and winning against Barnsley in the final, and everyone wants to win at Wembley. Obviously, you did it the season before. It's a fantastic day, but you know what I mean? Like, it's really grim. I've got people telling me that they don't want to go to the match anymore. Like, they just don't want to go. It's that bad, and people are probably thinking that and listening, thinking, how can you not go to watch the football? And at the end of the day, it means different things to different people, doesn't it? And where and it's form of entertainment, and I know you've got to be there through the thick and thin, but when you're paying through your nose to go and watch us as well, that's another problem.
No, I think I can identify with that. Our championship season, when we came through from the Premier League and kind of fell through the trap, though there was a point where I think when it got to about December, I was like, I just can't be bothered with this. I still went because I'm an idiot, but if I could get all that money back, all those 30 quid I spent on tickets and the season tickets, and I might be a bit more of a rich man, I might have a bit more of my savings, but I don't feel as bad as I thought I was going to, mention that, because obviously your playoff wounds have healed. But I think it would be wrong of me from a Sunderland perspective not mention the last time we spoke. As Sunderland fans, those two games, the one at the Stadium of Light and obviously Patrick Roberts' last minute winner / equaliser, whatever you look at it as, was incredible memories for Sunderland. I think, the game at the Stadium of Light for me was the best atmosphere we've had in moons. And it's kind of continued from there, where we had the old music back, the old signs, and it was brilliant. From a Sunderland perspective, it's some of the best memories I've ever had, and it really gave us momentum, those two games. But now that your playoff wounds have healed and you can maybe look at it a bit more objectively, how did those two games feel as a Sheff Wed fan, in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the occasion, and obviously you were on the wrong side of it, but looking back, how was it?
Yeah, obviously the game at Stadium of Light, it was one of those where it's funny going into it. I thought that if it can be within a goal, we're still well within a chance. I was like, come away with well, you don't get a point, but come away with a draw, and we're well in the game, and we can take it to Hillsborough, and we were unbeatable at Hillsborough. I mean, in the end, you didn't beat us at Hillsborough, although it did feel like it. We could have beat anyone at S6. So, it was just really frustrating that it was a mistake by Sam Hutchinson that kind of led to that goal, and we didn't really create much, and you probably could have beaten us by 2 or 3 goals at the Stadium of Light. But again, I thought that it was almost in a weird way probably better that we were perhaps a goal down, because going into the game we knew what we needed to do, and it's always easier chasing, I think, sometimes than it is leading and kind of holding on to a 1-goal lead. Say that would have been probably even more dangerous. And yeah, the game kind of as it was going on, you're thinking, are we going to do it? Are we not? Gregory scored, and honestly, Hillsborough nearly erupted when Gregory scored that goal. And I honestly believe that there was only one winner in that one. I thought we were probably going to go on and win the game. Probably didn't capitalise on the whole atmosphere in those closing stages, and then probably took his foot off the gas, thinking it's going to go to extra time. And yeah, it's the worst sound in football is when you're at home and you concede a goal and 3 sides are silent, and then there's one side that's celebrating euphorically like you boys were doing. It is horrible, and it was a weird feeling as well, because it was silent in the home end. Normally you've got fucking hell and shouting and everything else, but there was none of that. It was just like everyone was just in complete shock, and like, well, that's it. That's over. Everyone's thinking Wembley, we're going to get there. We're going to, we're going to come up against in the final. And then, just to have that ripped away from you, it felt, really, it was horrible, really. And you're almost thinking as well, are we ever going to do it? We've the previous 2 times, Hull in the final, in the Championship, and then Huddersfield the season after. and then all right, now this is League One, but again, you've not done it. You're thinking, gosh, how long are we going to be down in League One for? It certainly felt like that.
Yeah, I think it was like the opposite in many ways for us. And I always felt, I think we said on the show to each other, if we beat Sheffield Wednesday or if you beat Sunderland, we'll go on and win it. We'll go up. And I always felt like that. And I took that confidence from a very pessimistic football supporter, optimistic man in life, very pessimistic when it comes to Sunderland 9 times out of 10, that if we beat Sheff Wed, it would be fine. And I think, that, like when I said before, was like the catalyst. It really catapulted us and we got in the playoffs again. Because we played each other, I don't know if you're similar to me, but I tend to watch the teams. Like I couldn't stop watching how Lincoln were doing for a couple of seasons because they beat us in the playoffs, and I kept a sly eye for some reason. But from what you did see, did Sunderland's season last season surprise you, or was it not really that much of a surprise based on momentum and things we discussed before?
Yeah, I said yes and no. It surprised me a little bit because when we played each other, I thought we were fairly evenly matched. I know you pumped us 5-0, but COVID kind of came into that one. But then we beat you 3-0 at our place, and for a team to go up in the playoffs to then kick on, it's normally the team that finishes top or second that have walked the league and very few defeats, and they just kind of go on to do bigger and better things. And also the fact that you were down in League One for so long probably was a little bit of a surprise that you did kick on as much as what you did. Normally it's a team that bounces back and kind of keeps the vast majority of the championship players. And I think as well, it's a very young squad. So again, probably didn't really expect the young players to kind of kick on as much as what they have done, really. I suppose that's a testament to just having that belief in those young players, and the tried and tested has-beens that mostly reside in the championship. You've kind of gone against the mould a little bit, and he's great to see. And I mean, there is teams that do that, that go up and up again. And I think we've just done the total opposite, really. And I think our chairman's looked at what you boys have done and thought, we could do exactly the same, not really knowing all the ins and outs of how they've done that.
I feel like we've buggered a few teams coming up, because I think a few teams think it's a bit easier when, to be fair, Diallo transformed us last season, and there was a couple of players there as well, but 2 players that have had amazing seasons, and one's continued this season, as Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts. Now, I'll openly tell you, I wasn't 100% sure, especially on Jack Clark prior to the last time we played, but they've both really come into their own since that playoff campaign. Then the next season, they've really flourished, especially Clarkey. Always a penultimate question: which players concern you going into the game on Friday?
Yeah, well, we're just about to do the opposite of this show straight after here, and obviously I ask you the players to watch, and I always pick a few out. And yeah, Jack Clark is one of those 2 that I've picked. Obviously, yeah, his goals already, and the fact that where he plays, his position is, you think with the goals he's scored so far, he'd be an out and out striker, but he plays off the left, doesn't he? And he scored some wonderful goals, not only this season but last season. I'm struggling to think how we can combat against that, to be honest. I mean, the other one that stands out, I think mainly because his brother is Joe Bellingham. He's picked up a few goals, hasn't he? I mean, he must have the weight on his shoulders, really, of the weight of expectation, because of his brother. But it looks like he's doing the business. Probably not fitting or firing as much as what you probably like, but he's played in numerous positions as well, can't he? He can plays down the middle, but midfield, up front, attacking mid, can do it all, can't he, really?
Yeah, if he's 10% as good as his brother, I think we've got a Premier League player on our hands, and I think that's a compliment to both. But final question, obviously we're going to be doing the same thing on your show, so do please tune into the alternative version, or don't if you don't want to listen to me anymore, which I understand as well. But my predictions have been terrible. They have been for about 4 years, so I'll take a stab in the dark. I do fancy us. Look, I'm not going to lie, and this is going to be egg on my face if we do get beat, but Sheff Wed are struggling. We're not. Yes, we lost against Cardiff, but it feels like that was, we dominated the game. We don't feel too damn beat. I fancy a 3-1. I don't know if that's been too optimistic, but that's just trying to be as balanced as I can. I'm never right though, so don't put any bets on it. But I'll take 3-1. But where are you going, James? I have a feeling based on today's conversation, you might not disagree with me too much.
Yeah, I think you're being very optimistic as well that we're going to score a goal, to be honest. Can I have two? Can I go with my head and my heart? Because I can't just come on and predict a defeat for Wednesday. So my heart is saying that we'll nick it 1-0. My head is probably saying a 4-0 defeat, if I'm being perfectly honest. If we carry on the way that we're going, I really can't see how we're going to A, score a goal, and B, keep you boys out. So yeah, that's, like I said, if we're going to have any chance, it will be one of those games where you're knocking on the door. I mean, one player I didn't mention is Deves Vasquez from AC Milan on loan. Don't get too excited. He hasn't played for AC Milan. They've probably got about 19 goalkeepers, and him being one of them. However, he has kept us in some of these games. You know, Ipswich could have been a cricket score. The point we got at Leeds could have easily been 2 or 3-0 if it weren't for him. He's made some fantastic saves. And the vast majority of the goals, I don't think you can attribute to him. He's not really made a mistake. Great with his feet and things like that. So the only way I can see is getting a win is him being on form, you getting frustrated, piling men forward, and us nicking it on the break and getting a 1-0 win. If we do that, we'd probably have to score in about the 94th minute to hold on. So, yeah, that's the only way I can see us winning.
Music to the ears of Sunderland fans in many ways, but I feel quite bad. Obviously, we're going to do the show the opposite way around, but where can we find your stuff if people haven't seen you on the show before? I'm sure people are aware of you because of the show previously, but if they're not, where can we find your stuff?
Yeah, so it's the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. So you can search us on all the major podcasting platforms. On socials, it's at WTID Pod. I've also just been nominated for 2 awards at the Football Content Awards as well. So if you could give us a vote, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I actually saw that. I'm not in it, so go for it. Feel free to do it. Everyone.
That's why I said that, yeah.
I'm never in it. Probably for good reason. But James, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
No problem, Graham. Cheers, and all the best for the rest of the season. But fingers crossed, please just give us this first win on Friday, please.